It's Mizuho, right? Like it says, after the launching in Japan, Swift team made immediate contact with many financial institutions in the country to discuss future collaborations. Now, we know when it comes to Jasmy, you do have quite a few financial sectors and collaborations and so on. And later on, especially with the outline with Menalogwar, we're going to get into another particular bank and why that's important. But tonight is Mizuho. And getting more into this, Control F is definitely going to be my friend tonight because I don't want to make this the 3-hour segment. But Mizuho Bank Limited, like it says, let's go ahead and full screen this. Goes on to mention this whole thing of being integrated with retail, corporate banking. Mizuho Bank has over 505 branches, offices in Japan, 36 other countries, a prefecture of Japan. But Swift team, Tokyo branch, introduced this whole business model roadmap. Representatives of Mizuho Bank demonstrated the great interest in blockchain tech and the idea of Swift's transfer agreement. Okay, so this is Mizuho, okay? And I think we talked enough about this. Brother Rue did a good job of getting into that outline. I don't want to, just keep pounding that particular part home. But I want to give a shout out to this guy, and this is over on Reddit. Like I've always mentioned before, it's not just CryptoX, it's also Reddit. So he posted this 16 hours ago. All right, now hear me out. This is some of the juicy stuff. So this is what you've been waiting for. Well, you got a real treat. Let's go ahead and full screen this. And what you're going to see here is this theory around carbon credits in Mizuho with Jasmy. Now I'm telling you flat out, this is going to really, really strike the whole notion of, okay, there has to be a connection. Yes, there's a connection, and we're going to get into that. So I'm going to full screen it once again. And when we get more into the outline, you're going to see some other things pop up that's worth mentioning. Mizuho and Climate Impact X join forces to scale international carbon credit markets in Asia. How long ago was this posted? Only a few months ago, right? November 28, 2023, Mizuho and Climate Impact X join forces to scale international carbon credit market. Aha. Where is old Max going with this? Well, as you guys know, I joke around quite a bit. Why not? It's fun to joke around. I always talk about the Rice Crop Consortium, right? Let's go. Well, it's not just me joking about it, right? Understand Jasmy is a key player when it comes to the greater scheme of things, when it comes to, carbon offsets and stuff like that. Whether we want to agree with it, I understand it's a kind of unpopular thing, but Hedera is at the table. There's quite a few others at the table, right? So this whole thing of Mizuho, right? Mizuho Swift, Mizuho Jasmy, and I'll give you a little bit more about Jasmy here in a bit, but it's the impact, join forces, scale international carbon credit market. Is there common ground here? That's your key takeaway. For me, the answer is yes. Let's go ahead and full screen this a little bit more. Getting more into this, you see some of these things. He has this person who, let me give him a shout out. That's, I always like giving these guys a shout out. Jazzilla. So Jazzilla, if you're watching this later on, shout out to you. Thank you so much for the input, right? But he has a theory around Mizuho and Jasmy. And this, if anything, pound home, not necessarily Mizuho and Jasmy, but Mizuho, Jasmy, and Swift, right? Swift coin. Mizuho, like he says, are one of the biggest Japanese banks, but they also have venture capital side. Aha. Who do we know when it comes to venture capital, a big proponent of venture capital? Well, it's who, Mr. Rue?
Tim Draper.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Jasmy and carbon tokens part has come out, and of course he started to do some research. He says Mizuho can't invest in Jasmy yet due to restrictions, but when this is approved in Parliament, he suspects that Mizuho will be amongst the first of the VC firms, look at that, to invest in Jasmy. Now, let's take a pause on that. This is where I actually want to get a little bit of your input, your key takeaway, because you have been pounded home 110%, this whole notion of Tim Draper being literally involved in a lot of things. He's this silent king of crypto. Remember, that's what you said last time you were with us?
Yes.
So elaborate a little bit more on this before we kick it into a little bit more of the research.
Well, we just saw Tim Draper and we talked about Gemini, right? So not only was he an initial investor in Coinbase, he's an investor in Gemini. He's an investor in CoinDX, which is in India, He's an investor in their Swift connections to Bithumb in Korea. Like, there's so many connections. He initially invested in Ledger. Like, there's so many Tim Draper connections. Like, I did do a whole separate show on it on my channel. Like, there's too many connections to even mention. He has his own school. He has the Draper Dragons. He has the Draper Associates. He's invested in Tezos. He's invested in so many different cryptos. And since he partly owns Coinbase, you could also say everything that Coinbase Ventures is invested in, he owns as well. So the list is too big to count. If you take like all the different cryptos that Coinbase Ventures is invested in, it's just insanity. It's insanity.
So when I say that, like, Augustine Karsten's like a fat kid on cake, basically Tim Draper is the cake.
100%. And who
so
knows
bad.
like how many cryptos that Coin DX in India are invested in, because he also, since he owns parts of them, how many are they invested in? How many is Gemini Ventures is invested in? So if you go through all those tentacles, like literally the man's like, how many cryptocurrencies is that? Like, who knows?
Yeah, I think he has to be one of the whale of whales. But anyway, yeah, I just want to get your 2 cents on that, because I mean, you've been talking a lot about that, right? Pulling up a little bit more in regards to this. Let's go ahead and full screen this again. So I like some of the terminology that this guy mentions. He says, putting the dots together, the announcement came in November 23rd and has given Jasmy time to sit and think about how it could integrate into the ecosystem. Mizuho invested in this, but have been behind the scenes meetings about how to integrate Jasmy into it. Looking at who Mizuho are involved with, and they are in the same places as Jasmy. My prediction will be major investment from Mizuho in June/July. Now, this part I will read. He said you couldn't find much on climate impact, X technology, maybe suggesting that Jasmy could be used. We're going to get more into some of these key things, okay? And I do appreciate this individual's research, but I want to put a little bit more focus on this, where he says, looking at Mizuho, who they're involved with, same places as Jasmy. For me, back to you, Brew, and that is who they're involved with, same place as Jasmy, it's Swift.
Yep.
It's that Swift connection because of VCs,
Yep.
and I get it. I mean, for all we know, and I do appreciate this researcher, right? If you're watching, thank you again. You might not be into Swift coin, and again, naturally, like that would be. I just want to state this for the record for everybody, right? That would be like if there was a coin called, I don't know, X2ZF, right? I'm just throwing some random thing out there, and it's like, I never researched that. I just don't know, right? There's a lot of things that we all learn about. So I don't know if this guy knows about Swift coin or has researched Swift coin, but to me, that's that answer. That's not me trying to act like a smarty pants hot shot, because I don't like doing that. That's being disrespectful. But the answer, yes, is Mizuho, Swift, Jasmy. All right, a little bit more about this. Has that not caught your guys' attention? If it hasn't, then I don't know what to tell you, but I would appreciate, again, smash that like, because it does help. Let's get this program ticked up to 300. We're at 282. Not bad numbers for a good Friday. All right, let's take it over to this. Remember how we were talking about Tim Draper, right? So back to what Rue was talking about. Let's go ahead and full screen this. Interview Tim Draper on fintech, China, and ESG criteria. Now, when we know about the nitty gritty about, patents when it comes to Jasmy, ESG definitely stands out. Just to kind of give you guys a heads up, if you type in, if you look for that thumbnail, right, it's Jasmy Vanguard ESG, right, Tadashi Morita. Again, if you want to see that deep dive outline, I think when I chop it up, you'll see a end screen card where you can watch that deep dive. That video is from, like, I think October or November or something like that. That will give you a big idea, all right, with a lot of research on why ESG, Tadashi Morita, Jasmy is a big deal. And he even mentions like Vanguard, okay? So getting into this, December 15th, 2021. You have Tim Draper pictured here. And it says basically, Tim Draper says he's been ESG forever. Interesting. Who's another person that's ESG forever? It's Tadashi Morita, Jasmy. So it makes sense that if Tim Draper is all about ESG, that it's like, oh, there's Mr. Tadashi Morita who's all over ESG because all the patents. Do we have common ground here? Yes, we have common ground here. Okay. Going further into the outline of what we have, we're not going to just end it there. You will see some other interesting things. Back to the whole thing about, venture capitalists and so on. Tim Draper is probably one of the most well-known, like Rue was talking about, in the world. And the founder of International Network of Firms, Draper Associates, DFJ, Draper Venture Network, back to what Rue was talking about. Were you aware that Tim Draper has been investing in fintech before the term was even popularized? Now, I know this is going to be a stretch. I'm going to come back in the front. Guys, there's not enough talk about Jasmy and the whole connection with finance democracy. But the writing is literally on the wall. Is it not, Rue, when you see statements like this?
Oh, yeah. And keep in mind, too, like Draper's father, he created Silicon Valley before it was known as Silicon Valley. So like that's getting back there. Like now his son is kind of putting in all the work for cryptocurrency. So it's crazy. It's crazy to think about it that way, right? And one notable thing there they don't list is Draper Dragons. So
I think he gets into this on either this particular link or a different one. Is going to mention a little bit more about that. Yeah.
Gotcha.
But you're saying about Draper Dragons? I'm sorry.
Oh, the Draper Dragons is his Chinese arm. That is the Chinese arm of Draper's investments. And the reason I think they kind of did it that way is because there's this whole, the whole thing that, China versus the US. So he has to separate his Chinese investments from his, his US investments.
Yeah. Well, we're going to show you guys a little bit more in regards to this. So, back to what Rue was talking about, right? Billions of dollars in investments, with more than 200 deals. Draper has been early backer of, again, all those ones that, Rue mentioned, right? But I mean, here's some ones, obviously Coinbase. I mean, this is again why Coinbase, in my opinion, and also Rue, listed, the Swift coin on their exchange. I mean, some people complain like, oh, you can't get Swift coin on every single exchange, but yeah, you can get it on. You could get it on Coinbase. And are you aware, when we talk about pairings, are you aware that you can actually purchase with fiat US dollars straight to Swift coin? That's interesting. All right. Tad bit more in regards to this. Pull this up. In this interview, of course, he discussed the current state of fintech, right? That's all good stuff. China's role, right? But he's really into fintech, and he's really into the whole thing of, being a big proponent of venture capital and, these investments. Like this question, what are VCs most looking for in terms of investment long term? He says, I can't speak of, for all VCs, but what he looks is for a future he wants to live in. A future he wants to live in. Huh. That kind of hints a little bit of what? Rue? Society 5.0 maybe?
Oh, nice. Well,
yeah.
And more ESG
more
as well.
ESG, exactly. So, I mean, I really think there's obviously a big thing there, and we're not just going to end it on that. Let's take it to the next part. We're going to take you to this, and this is LinkedIn. I've been stating this, and shout out to our brother Channing Harrell, and that is, and also Quant Papa. Quant Papa mentioned, it's been very quiet when it comes to these blue chips tied into not just fintech, but tied into like, the ISOs or, CBDCs, Project Raws, all this stuff, right? They don't post a lot on Twitter anymore. But you know where they do post all their institutional juicy stuff? These platforms. Yeah, for real. If you want to get the good stuff, you got to go to like LinkedIn and stuff like that. Yeah,
And
it's a real
note
thing.
note the stuff that we mentioned earlier with Shook Focus about fintech and Mizuho. We mentioned that they were wanting to get into fintech and that they were also ISO 20022 ready, right? And that was that one stop area that we were looking at that related to Swift.
Right, exactly. And for some people are like, well, Jasmy's not ISO. Well, we do have Kunitaki Ando, who is part of the company that is ISO compliant. We did point that out in a deep dive before. And there was another one that we talked about that's a different ISO standard. So yeah, they're already exposed to the whole notion of ISO, not ISO 222, but there's different ISO standards. All right, I'm gonna full screen this. Let's pull this up. And on this, does it mention anything about common ground for Carbon, for Swift, and obviously Jasmy? Well, here's the answer. Boom. Look at this. It says under the alliance, and this is back to Mitsui Mizuho Bank, right? I'm trying to highlight that there just in case you missed it. Innovation, right? Look at this. They conclude this whole thing about this alliance agreement. Under the alliance, E- will procure finance totaling 2.5 billion yen through additional investment by Mitsui, who's an existing shareholder, but back to Mizuho, as well as third-party allotment of new shares to be subscribed to and by Mizuho Innovation Frontier. Look at this for a second, guys. Companies in every sector and industry are working toward the achievement of carbon neutrality by 2050. That's the whole mission of Society 5.0, if you think about it. By disclosing data, interesting, and reducing their CO2 emissions. A key priority in this context is the creation of mechanisms to help companies make a smooth transition to decarbonization and to support decarbonization and industry restructuring across entire supply chains. A little bit more about this. In February of 2022, Mitsui established E-, which provides comprehensive support efforts to realize carbon neutrality, or carbon neutral society in Japan, and this visualization of CO2 emissions by companies and local governments, to the development of specific emission reduction methods. Goes on to mention a little bit more about this collaborative effort, right? SMEs, and going down further, you have this whole thing of alliance represents an agreement and commitment by the four companies to create mechanisms, think about that in itself, to support not only the visualization of CO2 emissions by individual companies, but also decarbonization and industry restructuring across entire supply chains. Look at this. 4 companies will work together on various levels, including the development and proposal of new businesses and the solutions. I mean, did we not see something big mentioned yesterday on the show with the whole thing in Kansas and Nevada, right? With Panasonic and that whole connection to Tesla. If you didn't watch that show, you want to owe it to yourself to watch that. It was a big deal. Getting to the next part of what we have, let's talk about a little bit more about Mizuho. So, there was this piece from CoinDesk, okay? I'm going to full screen this one. This is good stuff as well. So CoinDesk back in 2022 talked about the inside the company building Japan's multi-stakeholders digital yen. Remember how we were always putting a lot of focus on digital yen, Japanese yen denominated stablecoins? Guys, I'm telling you flat out, there's some big news that was dropped and a lot of people talked about it. We're going to talk about it. I know it says 2022 here. We're going to take it to 2024 here in a bit. You got to be patient with that. Decurrent was born out of Japan's oldest internet firm. All right. When you get into this, it says the member list includes MUFG Bank, Sumitomo, which I'm doing some stuff with Metalogware, just a little hint there, Mitsui Banking Corp, and Mizuho Bank Japan. Now, the interesting thing is this, okay? Local governments, but the company has connections to national government with former chairman in Financial Services Agency. You know how I'm always talking about Genki Oda, SBI Japan, FSA, JVCEA? There's another guy, all right? Who's the other guy? Well, let's zoom in. So you have this whole thing of the FSA, the Bank of Japan, 3 ministries are also sitting in on the discussions. That was back then. But it was the stairway to digital currency. I'm telling you flat out. I'm showing you this because it's going to give you an idea of how the Japanese yen denominated stablecoins all come together. So since its founding, Decurrent had its eyes on launching a digital currency. Huh. But due to stablecoin regulation in Japan, the company started out with a crypto exchange business. The thinking was that working on blockchain tech would further Decurrent's digital currency ambitions regardless of specific use case. They talk about this whole thing of, it's been years since the exchange started and then, of course, turned a profit. But they talk about this whole thing about crypto exchanges in Japan had a hard time turning a profit. This was back in 2022, with many struggling to keep up with compliance rules. Who kept up more than anybody else when it came to compliance rules? It was Jasmy, hence why they got that title of the Bitcoin in Japan. Now, you guys know this, but why I want to pound it home a little bit more is when you see this about the taxes of up to 55% on gains have been spurred some exchanges to pack their bags, head overseas. That didn't happen. Why? Because they embrace crypto. Now back to the whole thing about a digital yen. This was all worked on years ago, but we had to get to where we need to be today. Decurrent's digital yen be issued by different banks using its platform. Again, different banks using its platform. We'll be one of those banks, you guys. It's the one we've been talking about tonight, right? I always forget all these names sometimes. Mizuho, right? Thank you very much for saving my butt tonight. But yes, it's Mizuho, right? So the point is, different banks using its platform. Which company will be charging the banks? The ledger of each bank will come together in the so-called common era, where a central ledger, listen to this, guys, of the digital yen supply will be kept, according to this white paper. And then we get more into it, talks about bank-to-bank transactions. I'm telling you, everything that's mentioned here has Jasmy written all over it, especially when it comes to finance democracy. Yeah. Decurrent working with the Bank of Japan, other government agencies for a regulatory system. You're going to do what? You're going to make a digital yen. It mentions all this stuff about blockchain and worried about compliance. So you have the all-in-one package, obviously, with, for example, Jasmy. Let's go further down. The central bank is also looking to digital currency. See, here's the proof. But Decurrent doesn't view this exactly as competition. Private issued digital yen can coexist with CBDC, much like the right of, central banks coexisting with private banks. We know that, right? Tokyo's private metro lines coexist with the municipal ones. But here's the point, you guys. The point is realizing, I'm going to kick it to the next thing real quick. Let's come back in the frame. The point here is realizing that there is all this groundwork that was laid for Japanese yen denominated stablecoins to be paired up with Jasmy. Now, I do have something a little bit more in the modern point of view, modern news. I'm going to now take you over to this, and it mentions Mizuho numerous times, okay? So this is, again, back 2019. I'm telling you flat out, I'm pointing this out because I want you guys to have an idea of this notion that Mizuho is not behind blockchain tech, and it's just a I guess you could say like a theory that's not solidified. I don't think that's the case. Let's solidify it, right? So let's full screen this as well. I'm telling you, this is good stuff to read about, or at least learn. Mizuho back in 2019, guys, 5 years ago, right? Did have big plans for native crypto J-coin. Now that's not Jasmy, okay? So I want to state that. But the point is they were on board for the whole thing of digital currency, blockchain technology, all this stuff. So when we get into this, it talks about how on March 1st of 2019, Mizuho planned to launch a tailor-made stablecoin for remittance and other payment-related activities. Now, yeah, you know where I'm going with this. So if we have common ground with Mizuho and Swift and Jasmy, do you guys not see where the connection is? The connection is what, my friend?
Swift and Jasmy there, right?
And Mizuho.
Mizuho
is the supreme connection. Oh, sorry to put you on the spot on your birthday. Shame on you. Anyway. But the point is, guys, it is Mizuho, okay? That's the common ground, VCs, all that stuff. And again, I want to not just leave you with that because, again, you're going to see some dates coming up here soon about summer 2024. Of course, obviously trying to have, our fellow brother Rue interact because, there's always going to be somebody mentioned on the chopped up. You don't let your guests talk enough. It's like you're watching the chopped up version. You're not watching the live. And
Right.
that's where that comes from. Anyway, so yeah, they plan to launch that tailor-made stablecoin for remittance and other payment-related services. Launch date has been officially announced, at least back then, after the company entered into a partnership with nearly 60 financial institutions, together boasting, 56 million customer accounts. Again, why am I sharing this? So I want you guys to understand this, okay? Why does Maximus put so much emphasis on Japanese yen denominated stablecoins, the pairings? Pairings are enablers. And if you have something that is labeled as you want to have this for security in the form of what, guys? A personal data locker. This is yet another example of how we get to these crazy price targets of 2026 $17 KPI, because this paired with what? Personal data locker, Jasmy's native token. And in that, it doesn't just end there, right, Rue? There's other ones that are going to be paired with it.
Yeah.
It just goes on and on.
And it seems to, like, via Swift blockchain, they have a nice conduit out to the rest of the world. If that connection is solid, right? Just wanted to add that.
Yes, absolutely. So, there's a little bit more, I think. Let me see. There's a few just key highlights. So, 10 total highlights on Mizuho. We're not going to spend a lot of time just right here, but look at this. Does it mention that Mizuho cryptocurrency platform? Mizuho cryptocurrency platform. Interesting. Will host the native currency dubbed Jcoin. The platform will supposedly link the digital wallets allotted to clients with their respective bank accounts. Oh my God. What is Jasmy looking to do with the super wallet? Again, guys, this is why we connect stuff for you, right? So Jasmy making that bold move with the announcement last year of we're entering finance democracy. Do you now understand why they have chosen to enter finance democracy? It's common ground. Swiftcoin, Mizuho, Jasmy, Mizuho. Oh, we need VCs. No problem. Who's the plug? Who's the connect? I don't know. This guy named Tim Draper?
Right.
It's just mind-boggling when you get more into it, right? Anyway, a little
This
bit more.
kind of sounds like how PayPal has their own PayPal USD,
Exactly.
It kind of sounds just like that.
Thank you. I wasn't going to include that, but that's awesome. I'm glad you're pointing that out because that is true. That is a great way of looking at it for people that maybe like, I don't get this, and that's okay, guys. So yeah, there's all that. Getting into a little bit more about this. Let's pull this up again. Look at this. Mizuho Financial Group, which total assets, at least back in 2019, was 1.8 trillion. As of December 31st, 2018, mentioned, I said 2019, I said 2018, mentioned that the native currency would be administered by a custom-built mobile app. Custom-built mobile. Who is also doing a custom-built mobile app? Jasmy, right? The super wallet. Anyway, I'm talking you guys' heads off about that. Look at this. Named Jcoin Pay, utilizing QR codes, point of sale to finish payments to vendors. Scrolling a little bit further down about this, commenting on the new age payment services, Tatsufumi Sakai, CEO Mizuho, told the Nikkei, quote, the arrival of all these new entrants into the digital payment space is eroding the common sense notion that payment services are provided by financial institutions. So what does that mean? That means that, that basically solidifies the whole notion that we're not sticking just with the traditional finance sectors. This is the whole point of investing into, like Tim Draper does, right? Blockchain and DLT. I mean, that just kind of backs everything up that you literally shared with us earlier, my friend. Happy birthday to you, right? I mean, it's just, I was blown away when you told me this. So you mentioning, Rue, I don't know, 3 or 4 hours ago, hey, bro, tonight we're going to make these connections. Open up a rabbit hole for me because I wasn't aware of these connections. And of course, I did some of my own research and I was like, well, if anything, we're going to solidify this. We're gonna let people know that, wow, and some people will give me criticism, say that's enough. You don't need to go more. I want to give you some of the modern or the recent, dates coming up here in a bit. Full screen it again. You're going to see here, it says to ensure adoption. And guys, these terms are amazing. All right. To ensure adoption, because we're always talking about mass adoption, Mizuho is trying to have a tie-up with large retail sector players. Interesting. Mizuho is negotiating with Family Mart, convenience store, and Big Camera, an electronic retailer, East Japan Railway, a transport company, who is also trying to do all of this for pairings. Right, it's Jasmy. Like we always mention, Jasmy pairs well with benefiting the local economy through what? Everything that you've seen here and everything that we mentioned for over a year or more with the research. And it's not just me, right? Jesse, K-Hire Finance, there's a lot of great guys, right? Dip Metaverse, Brian. I mean, I could give you a whole grocery list of some of those guys. I apologize if there's anybody I'm missing. Or how about the guy from earlier from Reddit? So the point is, these connections, not just saying, well, what if, going from what if that was speculative to, I think there's obviously common ground, okay? There is more to share here. I know I keep saying there's more. Some people tell me, they're like, man, you're like Billy Mays of crypto. You're like, but wait, there's more, Well, there is more. And, you're tuned in here for a reason. You're excited about future generational wealth. And the way I look at it, Jasmy is the absolute bee's knees. And I think, obviously, SwiftCoin is a very, very underrated project that's been kept hidden, like we mentioned last time. So look at this. Mizuho intends to bring on board a minimum of 300,000 stores and sign up a minimum of 6.5 million clients in the next few years. So those other numbers, that was a big deal, but a minimum. So again, when we talk about KPI targets and so on, understand when people say, Panasonic is the only example, or Avita is the only example, or, Transcosmos is the other example. Are you not understanding pairings? This is why we explain and put so much emphasis on pairings. And for all the naysayers that want to say, Max, you need to stop putting big deal on pairings. Okay, I hear you. Let me show you why you want to pay a big, pay attention, I should say, to pairings. Let's show you one of the biggest pairings of them all. It's this right here. Let's go to CMC. On CMC, we know that when it comes to all this stuff, Bitcoin has a lot of pairings, does it not? Of course it does. And it's paired basically with everything, okay? When you click on markets, do this for yourself, right? Call it homework. I don't know. Call it whatever you want. Binance provides a bunch of pairings. So Tether is a big, huge pairing, is it not? Solana, BTC. Oh, yeah. I mean, there's so many examples, right? Pairings. All right, so you get the point about pairings. Can I give you another example of why pairings are so important? Well, it's Tether. It's USDC. So let's click on volume. Why would you want to do that? Well, understand this. Tether is a stable coin, is it not? Absolutely it is. It just stays at a dollar value. The point we're trying to share here is Tether consistently does number one in volume. Why? Boom. There you go. Because it's a freaking pairing. You have to have it to pair with what you're trying to buy as far as some of these cryptocurrency projects, right? So my thing is this, okay? That's number one when it comes to pairings, right? And you have to understand how this is an enabler of so many different projects, because this is paired with what? BTC, ETH, Doge, Solana, Litecoin for 3,539 pages.
Jesus.
Right. Now do you guys have an understanding of why old Maximus here puts so much effort and emphasis on Japanese yen denominated stablecoins and pairings? Because pairings are the enablers. This is what we want. So to see in the research that we provided you guys tonight that there's Mizuho Bank doing these big things, which is, take you back to it, full screen it again, 300,000 stores and signing up a minimum of 6.5 million clients in the next few years. Understand that number is probably a lot larger than it is. Okay, that's just Mizuho Bank. What about some of the other ones? Sumo Timo, whatever it's called. I can never pronounce these things right. Many other banks, Bank of Japan, on and on and on. Pairings. So Jasmy, to have all these pairings that benefit the society of Japan and other places is absolutely massive. And then also have Swiftcoin part of the mix. That's huge too. Okay, so I want to get your thoughts on just a little bit of this before, because we have a little bit more, not a huge, bunch more. What do you think about some of this stuff?
I think like when you pair this into Tim Draper and his empire, and again, guys, the number of exchanges that he's connected to via the Draper Dragons in this side of the world is so huge. With the CoinDX, and I'm leaving out like a ton of different exchanges, right? If we were to just bring up Swift and see all the different blockchains it's connected to, you saw Binance and Tron, right? We also saw that they were partnered with OKX. So,
This screen, right?
Yeah, there it is. So let me go back to that. Exit full screen here. Okay, so
I'll full screen it for you. There you go.
Okay, so all of these guys are connected. One of the ones that they don't list on here is Stellar. And you know that they're connected to Stellar because Coinbase is one of their partners. Okay. And again, Tim Draper was an initial investor in Coinbase. And I showed you guys last show how Coinbase had, it might be on one of my latest videos, where Coinbase has a partnership with Stellar. Let me go ahead and see if I can find that right quick. Because if you see that partnership, this brings exactly in what Max was saying, but instead of from the Tether side, it's from the USDC side. And it's like when you get USDC, you got all the World Economic Forum guys right there, like all right there.
And technically, I mean, I know it sounds bad when we talk about some stuff, but I mean, again, guys, back to Genki Oda, he is part of the WEF, and that is one of their plugs, whether we liked it or not.
Okay, so yeah, let me bring this up.
While he's bringing that up, guys, I just want to give you guys a thanks, especially on our fellow brother Rue's birthday. Thank you so much for allowing us to scale up to 331 combined on the live stream from YouTube and also X. 73 on YouTube, 258 on X. My goodness, 331. You guys rock. So, yeah, nice way to celebrate your birthday by having some good attendance.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Appreciate you guys.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm just going to double check some things. Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Oh, wait. You got a presentation. Okay, hold on. Okay, there it is.
So here it is. Coinbase integrates USDC on Stellar. So understand this, that USDC is kind of intimately integrated with Coinbase. So like all those USDC pairings and everything that Coinbase has, it's intimately linked there. So, and here it is. Starting today, Coinbase fully supports deposits and withdrawal with Circle's USDC coin via the Stellar network. So Stellar is like intimately into Coinbase. And remember, again, Draper is an initial investor in Coinbase. So essentially he owns Coinbase, essentially. Stellar has developed an extensive global network of interoperable on and off ramps provided by anchors, wallets, exchanges, and fintech businesses.
My goodness.
Fintech again, transferring value from fiat to digital or digital to fiat on off the network. With this launch, Coinbase adds another significant ramp for USDC on Stellar, enabling millions of institutional and retail customers to access a truly global digital dollar. Global digital dollar. That's what a lot of people say USDC is, and here it is actually in writing.
Right.
I didn't notice that before when I was reading this, but very, very, very good there. And also, they go on to emphasize MoneyGram here. Remember, Stellar and MoneyGram. Users can seamlessly exchange fiat cash for USDC on Stellar and vice versa, thanks to MoneyGram, Claimy, and supporting wallets across 180 countries and 300K plus locations. This means users can take their fiat cash and convert it to USDC in a digital wallet or convert their USDC into fiat cash in hand using the Stellar network with the addition of Coinbase as an on-ramp. Millions of users have access to USDC and can enter a network of global cash access points to and from crypto. So this part is extremely huge. Even though Swift does not list Stellar as one of their networks that they're linked to, they are automatically linked to them because they are linked to Coinbase. Okay, so now imagine Mizuho and Jasmy are linked to these guys via Swift, so that links everything. That links literally everything. If we go back to if we now
let me take a pause, brother, just for a quick second, because
sure.
This is good. This is going to pound home what you just said in regards to Stellar.
Sure.
So, guys, and Rue, I don't know if you remember this either, but we reported, I think, a few months ago. I think it was like maybe beginning of this year, or maybe it was late last year. But so it was originally the beginning of 2023 or late 22. I can't remember. Japan decided to ban foreign stablecoins, Tether and Circle. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Okay. So the report, again, this is another happy birthday to you because it's going to pound home your research. The report showed that Stellar was unbanned from Japan. And, that was a big deal. And if you think about it, it was like we were pointing out, like, wow, what will be the next big thing as a positive catalyst for like things like Jasmy? And then, not that much longer after that, we got some of the big news about, with what Jasmy was doing. And, I'm not going to say it was like right then we had a big pump. I mean, it was a very insignificant pump. But I always point out, guys, these pairings are the enablers. Why is that important? Because it gives people access to just simply purchase the asset. That's the whole point. And so, yeah, I think that part is crucial. Back to what you're saying. Some people ask, why wasn't it Tether? Well, back to your research. It's because it made more sense for it to be with a global, what did you say?
Digital dollar, or
a global stable coin, a global digital dollar, compared to, and some people say, well, Tether has more pairings, and they technically do, but Circle is right up there, and you do have a sense of more of that trust. And last I checked, when it comes to Japan, the whole point is trust. So and Tether's got kind of a bad name, you know what I mean?
Understand that Circle's CEO, he's listed on the World Economic Forum's website. So more connections there. And like you said, did you say Hara had relations to the World Economic Forum?
No, not Hara. It was Genki Oda. Genki Oda is the Jasmy plug to BitPoint, and then there's the whole thing of Kuntaki Ando, Cosmos Sato. I mean, it's a long thing. Like there's SBI Japan. I've done a whole deep dive on Genki Oda, but this guy is literally, like, was it the FSA, which is Japan's SEC, right? But they embrace crypto. They're not like Gary Gensler. So there's that. SBI Japan, and then of course BitPoint. I mean, this guy, and then World Economic Forum, obviously. So he's like into 4 huge sectors, right? All right, so back to Mizuho. Okay, so I'm gonna full screen this. Back to what we were kind of talking about. So yes, it was a big deal in regards to the whole thing of what was it, 300,000 stores, right? But I like this part about even though the big financial institution has partnered with 60 organizations, it is still miles away when compared to Line's existing user base of 79 million. Why am I pointing out Line? Because we know about that connection in the past, especially when it comes to Line and Jasmy. I mean, might as well throw that in there. It's worth pointing out. More than welcome to take a look into the deep dive about that. But like it says, furthermore, Line Pay, if you guys weren't already aware of it, already supported at nearly 1.3 1.30 million stores. So again, this is just another example of how you could possibly get to some of these KPI targets. Now, I'm not saying that we get exactly at the 1787 like the Jasmy management team has pointed out, but it's so interesting how they literally have it at that specific, target. I understand majority of people are probably going to take profits at $1. That is a given. But again, when we point out some of these other things, maybe you don't have to necessarily dump your whole bag. This is why people do the whole thing of like moonshot bags and stuff like that. Getting into a tad bit more about this, I like this statement too. Therefore, in order to push the Jcoin Pay project forward, Mizuho entered into a partnership with Alibaba's Alipay to increase adoption rate. I love all these statements. Mizuho intends to charge vendors highly competitive transaction fees when compared to the charges levied by credit card companies. Credit card companies usually charge between 2% and 5% transaction. Look at this part. Japanese company unveiled its cryptocurrency plans, because just in case people think Mizuho never had any plans, this is why we're sharing this. And that was, of course, back in December 2018. Likewise, in January 2018, Mitsubishi UFJ Financial Group, another Japanese banking behemoth, the fifth largest, by the way, announced plans to introduce a stablecoin, which would be pegged to the yen. So again, everything you see further pounds home the whole notion of why we put so much emphasis on the stable coins and the pairings. And then this statement about MUFG, I think I've done a few things about this with Metalogware, but the point is the company, if you're wondering, had a lot of intention to launch a blockchain-backed payment system in partnership with Akamai, a U.S. content delivery provider, and of course that happened back in 2020. Now, this is now straight from a Medium, and now the reason I want to point this out as well is because back to the whole thing of what Rue had. Rue was pounding home the whole thing of Swiftcoin, especially when it comes to Tim Draper, and it's just basically pounding it home more about venture capital over and over and over in those firms. And you better believe when it comes to Tim Draper, he's at the forefront of this. So look at all these constant references. Just in case you're on your couch like Boomer F and Sooner, let's blow this up. So you see the innovation partners, team shares, size on capital. Again, back to Mizuho Innovation. So there's Mizuho Bank, if you weren't aware of it, and then a Mizuho Innovation. Mizuho Innovation is obviously paying attention to everything that's going on in blockchain, DLT, and so on, right? Simply makes sense. As you get into a little bit more about this, let's jump down to this part, because I was talking about Innovation Frontier. You see what is mentioned in regards to this business alliance agreement, capital business alliance agreement. Talks about the whole thing of this thing totaling 2.5 billion in yen. Talks about, for example, the shareholders, the third-party allotment of new shares to be subscribed by Mizuho Innovation Frontier. And again, that was back in February 2022. Let's get down to the bottom part of this. Let me get to that for a second. Hold on. Daiwa Securities, Rakuten Securities, Rakuten Payments, and Mizuho Bank, right? All of these ones. Progmat. Good God. There's your little Easter egg, even though it's not Easter. Progmat and Jasmy. Remember all the research we did about that? So look at this, guys. They announced their cooperation in issuing Japan's first public offering security token bond that will pay interest fully in electronic money. Aha.
Ooh.
What do we know about Jasmy when it comes to monetization? So, guys, I mean, this is... Oh, my God. So again, back to the whole thing of Swift coin, and the common connection is what? It's, I can't even pronounce the bank anymore.
Mizuho?
Yeah. Why can't it's just so many darn terms sometimes. Anyway. All right. So in conclusion, before we kick it into the very, very last segment, that is the icing on the cake plus a video, because you guys probably getting tired of hearing just me talk and so on. While public knowledge will basically state that there is no information to confirm, obviously, Swift coin and Jasmy, we just connected the dots for you guys, okay? And how they're both backed by Mizuho Financial Group. They are backed by them when you understand the common thing of venture capital. And, you know, and then for all the people who are like, Mizuho never invested into blockchain technology and digital assets. I showed you research all the way back to 2018, did I not? And
Yep.
also, yeah, Rue showed you a ton of research. So that confirms it. There's nothing speculative about that. But it is significant to understand these things. So Swiftcoin Jasmy, some people will say, well, big deal. It is a big deal. Why is it a big deal? I always mention these things, guys. Maybe get used to it, right? 3 main key things. So backing by a common financial group like Mizuho, for instance, could indicate a potential strategic partnership to a sense of Swiftcoin and the likes of like Jasmy, for instance. You have to keep in mind that collaboration on projects, joint marketing initiatives, and even co-investment opportunities could very well happen. We've seen it with Tim Draper. So that is a thing. What about the whole thing of like, could it spawn credibility and trust from this whole thing? My answer is yes. The backing of large and established financial institutions like Mizuho could very well lend credibility and trust to both, of course, Swiftcoin and even Jasmy, but especially if they're relatively new ventures. In the case of Jasmy, we are seeing it like get more of a trusted name because, let's face it, it's in the top 100. Can Swiftcoin also get into that? Yeah, just needs more of that adoption, but some people point out it's being suppressed. Why is it being suppressed? Again, stay tuned for that because we're going to get more into that nitty gritty as we keep doing these collaborations, myself and Rue and other people, Underdog Crypto or, you know, Shook and so on, right? But if you understand the concept of new ventures and understand that in Japan, you have the whole case of, you know, this initiative that existed since 2015 with Shinzo Abe about investing into new startups, then you already understand where we're at right now. I do feel as though it's beneficial in attracting new customers, partners, and so on. And we've already seen this snowball. And Mizuho is just one example, right? There's Sumitomo or Sumotomi. I can't ever pronounce it right. Again, Minalagwar and I are going to get more into that. What about access to resources? Isn't that the whole point? Yes, Mizuho Financial Group could very well provide Swiftcoin, right? And even Jasmy with access to valuable resources such as financial capital, industry experience or expertise, and a global network of contacts. How so? Your plug and your connect is Tim Draper, for crying out loud. Common ground through venture capital. It's already there. We already established that tonight. You have to keep in mind that this is going to help both projects accelerate their growth and development, hence why we reference some of these connections. Mizuho is just the tip of the iceberg. So here's some examples that I want you guys to follow tonight before we get to the very last segment, okay? On how we can see, you know, these two big conglomerates work together potentially through common ground of things like Mizuho, okay? Without even having confirmation from either Jasmy and Swiftcoin, because in reality that probably will never happen. But again, it's the common, you know, the ones that like the subsidiaries, if you will, or the other banks that work with both, or the venture capitalists involved, whether it's Tim Draper and so on. So you have to keep in mind, maybe it sounds unpopular, but like security token offerings, okay? So Swiftcoin as a security token platform in itself could potentially help Jasmy tokenize its assets and conduct, like, for example, STO. That could happen in the future. Not saying it is, but it could allow Jasmy to raise capital, of course, to a wider pool of investors. If Swiftcoin is the XRP of Japan, well, then you already have an idea of some of those investors. And last we checked, or last we saw, when it comes to Jasmy and even Swiftcoin, they do have common ground when it comes to Hong Kong, right? Big time. Data sharing. Back to the whole subject of Jasmy real quick. So Jasmy, as we know, focuses on data security and monetization. Literally 2 minutes ago, we just talked about that example of monetization. And if you think about it, a collaboration with Swiftcoin, even not on the surface, could help develop solutions for secure data sharing within the security token ecosystem. I know some of that stuff sounds scary, but keep in mind, different area of the world when it comes to the whole topic of security tokens. What about compliance? As we know, Jasmy is at the forefront of being compliant because they already did that from the beginning, hence why they got the title of Bitcoin in Japan. It means the first. In regards to Swiftcoin, in regards to compliance, could leverage its experience, or I should say their expertise, in security token compliance to help Jasmy ensure that its data monetization practices comply with relevant regulations. But it really does. But what about taking it to the next level like Hong Kong and some other areas outside Japan? Very, very true. Swiftcoin could very well be the plug to make that happen on more of a global scale, especially for Southeast Asia. Now, I understand some of these are hypothetical examples, but the point I want to get to is what you see here from Cointelegraph. I got to get this on the share, and I promise I'll give you some 2024 news instead of, 2018 and 19 and so on.
And before you go into that, Max, I want to point out one thing that people understand too. What we got pretenses that are going on here, where China can't necessarily, like Draper can't necessarily say relate things from China to Japan because there's the whole BRICS versus G7 thing. So we might never get like the full complete total open cooperation, right? We have to see it. It'll always probably be indirect because of that. Just wanted to point that out.
Right, and like we also point out, even with the research, I mean, it's not just me, it's other guys that point out like Panasonic, that was such a people are like, oh, it's such speculation, but we connected the dots with that a long time ago. And then now you finally see that, they got the green light from Panasonic to mention, yep, that's confirmed. So do you really always need to have it confirmed? Some people say, well, yeah, because that's awesome. I mean, great. Okay, I get that. But you also got to keep in mind it's the timing of the market. Why would they wait all the way till now to mention that? Probably because it didn't sound as good in a bear market. I'm just saying, now it's a bull run. I mean, it's called strategic. It's part of the strategy, right? What makes sense compared to what doesn't make sense. Action, reaction, timing of the market. But yeah, let's get into this for a second. And you made some good points. Thank you for sharing that. We're going to full screen this. And again, we're probably about 80% done with this. I know this is a lot of material to get into, but it's good stuff. And, I don't typically do shows on Fridays anymore. So, we used to call these like Friday Surprise. Well, yeah, surprise. Here we are. So back in October 2023, it says from Cointelegraph, by the way, Japanese yen-backed digital currency DCJPY, remember how we just referenced them, to go live in July 2024. I see where Max is going with that. Yeah, because this pounds home all the research we've done for a couple years now. Digital currency and electronic payment business, Current Holdings, intends to launch the coin in July 2024. So this is a great example of when we talk about pairings, it's like this is a Japanese yen-backed digital currency. People are talking about, JPY, right? This is DCJPY. Okay. So it gets more into this. It says on October 12th, digital currency and electronic payments firm Current Holdings published that white paper on its cryptocurrency project DCJPY. Organization tends to launch that, of course, 2024. But it mentions this whole thing about the network, how it consists of the financial zone and business zones. Why is everything tied into Jasmy? Innovation zone, monitoring zone, financial zone, business zone. You get where I'm going, guys. The former will include banks minting deposits and as digital currency on the blockchain, while the latter will be reserved for transactions. Business Zone will also provide space for issuing non-fungible security and governance tokens. Guys, these are utility-based NFTs for crying out loud, if you really think about it, right? So that's interesting. Getting more into this, and I'm not going to get into the whole thing. It says leading issuer DCJPY, which will be backed by deposits in Japanese yen, will be the Azora Bank, commercially, entity with 19 domestic branches. Again, this is great examples in Japan. So 19 domestic branches. Let's take a pause on this for a second. This is yet another example of understanding pairings. So if you have 19 domestic branches, and it's just a no-brainer. When we put a lot of emphasis on Swift coin, right? You can purchase Swift coin on Coinbase, and you can literally use a pairing of the US dollar. Okay? But to have 19 branches, especially when it comes to Japan, is going to further pound home if we're going into this new era, Society 5.0 and so on, and the government has literally mentioned this whole thing of, okay, we need personal data lockers and so on. Okay, Web3 requires your data to be secured, but you have the option in Japan and other places, Hong Kong and so on, where that is supply and demand. That's like one of the best examples of utility I can think of, is these pairings. I don't know. Maybe people get worn out with this. Me mention this. I'm just looking at it from perspective. It's high volume. That should be your takeaway. Am I too far off on that? High volume, right? If Tether's high volume and Circle's high volume, this is internalized in Japan. So it's not just like, oh, hey, we're unbanning Circle, right, Rue? And just, you come to Japan, you're going to visit Japan, here's Circle. No, you're enabling the people of Japan to pair this up and incentivizing them to use a personal data locker because it benefits the local society, and you get kickbacks as far as hey, you want to get rewarded in points, hence the DD token. I don't know. Maybe I'm talking everybody's heads off tonight. I don't know. But anyway.
Oh, that sounds good. That sounds great. And especially, I know you said that Jasmy seems like it's a national project. So it only feeds more into this that if they make this, that it'll be like a national thing. It'll be in everything. So, especially considering the size of these different companies we're talking about, like Mitsubishi, Mizuho, all these different guys. And I know I saw in one of the other articles, Nomura was there. So this is worldwide, guys. It really, but when you look at these, it's like Japan wide.
Yeah, I mean, this other statement, let me full screen this because I know people like it to be zoomed in. Goes on to mention that, the current reported about a consortium of 70 Japanese companies that would participate in that network. So again, this is another example of, oh my gosh, it's like a snowball effect. We mentioned all examples of pairings. Then you have 70 Japanese companies that are going to participate in the network. And of course, I could click on this link, and then it opens up another rabbit hole, and we'll be here all night. I don't want to do that. But the point is recognizing some of this stuff. The white paper doesn't mention any specific names on the network participants. Okay, so I didn't need to click on that. But the current itself is backed by 35 shareholding companies. Well, as we know, when we talk about shareholding companies, back to the whole example of Swift coin, Tim Draper, shareholders with that. So I think that pounds at home even that much more. Hold on a second. Let's get into this next part. What's this other part? Yeah, meeting takes place in Tokyo, won't be screened online. Oh, gee, I wonder why. Maybe because they don't want to leak out the info about non-disclosure agreement. But back in May 2023, Bank of Japan released the results of the second phase of its central bank digital currency experiment. It will make a final decision issuing a digital yen by when? 2026. I mean, this is all the freaking research, all points for Japan for 2026. The rest of the world, their heads spinning. They don't get it. understand their fourth, like when we talk about the lockup, right? Our fourth quarter is not their fourth quarter. You know, maybe our bull run not necessarily is the same type of bull run for them. So these targets of 2026, it's like, why always 2026? And I think if anything, this kind of pounds it home. Why 2026? So should we be patient in 2026? I'm not going to give you guys financial advice. I'm just providing you guys information in that regard. And, you know, I think it's all worth pointing out. I know I keep saying there's more, but there really is, right? So, you know, look at this, guys. Meanwhile, Binance, Mitsubishi UFJ Trust, and Banking Corporation are exploring the issuance of Japanese yen and other foreign currency denominated stablecoins in the country. Who's been pounding that home for a freaking year or two? Not just me, other people.
To clarify that just a little bit more, so just so you guys know, Draper is an initial investor in Coinbase, and Coinbase listed Swift, which Draper, through the Draper Dragons, owns. So 2 different companies which he owns in collaboration there, because that's how loaded this guy is, right?
Yeah, he's definitely loaded, that's for sure. All right, so what we're gonna do now is gonna pull this up in regards to the last bit. This is from Reuters. If you guys want the citation, I'm gonna go ahead and drop it in the comments. Here it is. I mean, there's some I drop and some I don't, but you know, sorry about that. It's in the comments. One of the benefits of watching them live. And yeah, let's go ahead and full screen this. So again, once again, you know, from Reuters, Japan firms to issue digital currency for clean energy transaction. Interesting.
Ooh. Nice.
Right? So why are we pointing this out? I think you understand that.
Oh yeah,
this further solidifies your research, does it not?
Yeah, here it is. ESG again, coming up right here.
Yeah, this pounds on everything that Rue was mentioning at the beginning of the outline. That's why you point this out. So, full screening this, and yeah, Japan firms. I read that. My bad. For clean energy transaction. This was not long ago. This is only, technically speaking, a few months ago. I mean, like, what was that, 6 months ago, something like that? But here we go. It says here, you know, a group of Japanese firms will issue a digital currency by July 2024. We just mentioned that from the other one. For the transaction settlement, clean energy certificates, cryptocurrency exchange. Again, back. That's why I show you the whole thing of Decurrent. Okay. And again, pounds on the whole thing of DCJPY. And it goes on to mention that DCJPY intended to be used as telecommunication firm internet initiative for the settlement of clean energy certificates, which is signed, yeah, I know, environmental value to energy procured from non-fossil fuel sources. Now, if you just tuned in and you're like, I don't get where these guys are coming from. This makes no sense to me. Again, understand this. So we're going to share. Here it is. Look at this. What does that say, guys? November 28, 2023. Mizuho, back again.
Nice.
Climate Impact X, join forces, scale international carbon credit market in Asia. Okay. Venture capital side, Jasmy, right? VC firms. And then what's the other thing we know? Back to Rue's research. Let's jump back to this again. Swift team planning to prepare creation of this for a long time. We already got to that part. Sorry about that. But again, look at this about Mizuho, right? Yeah, Mizuho. Let me get to this other part real quick. All right. Yeah, Mizuho and some of the things that were listed here. Hold on a second. What was the other one? Oh yeah, this part about venture capital firms. I think this part, yeah, literally mentions Tim Draper. Yeah, back to this ESG. Boom. Tim Draper. Think about it, guys. Fintech, China. You know, I just kind of do a little review with you guys, right? To show some of that. ESG, how's it playing in investor choice, right? So it's all there if you look more into it. What was this other one? Oh, this one is from the LinkedIn. My bad. How many times do we see it listed here? Look at this for a second. There it is. Carbon neutrality by 2050, decarbonization, support decarbonization, industry restructuring, Japan, Mizuho Bank, decarbonization, more about decarbonization. I mean, again, you could go back to it. Boom, Mizuho Bank, freaking.
That's huge. Now
It's
now
just,
you're gonna have me down a rabbit hole of Draper and decarbonization. Okay, I'm gonna, yeah, I'm gonna.
that's it. I mean, some people say I thought you had a lot more than that. Well, yeah. I mean, you know, but the point is, I hate these things sometimes coming up like that. But clean energy certificates, guys, ESG. The common factor is the patents, especially when it comes to Tadashi Morita. Sorry, I'm going to full screen this just a little bit more. I know it seems like I just keep pounding home more, but I'm trying to have people understand that there's nothing really you want to skip here. Okay, look at this. Decurrent says it improves security by using banks' existing know your customer anti-laundering measures alongside a traceable blockchain ledger and distinguishes it from stablecoins, cryptocurrencies whose values are typically pegged to fiat currencies. So again, this is working with everything that we talked about when it comes to this concept of what Jasmy's trying to do. Cashless business entities also can be truly digital by using this. Enormous cost savings for all investors. And basically, it's, like it says, launch in alignment with Japan, other countries that have seen an increase in the number of digital currencies backed by bank deposits and blockchain tech. All right, so look, before we get, the last bit of 2 cents from myself, Rue, and so on, I want to give a shout out to this guy. I could have sworn I seen this guy in the comments. His name is Mark Reddick. I recognize that face. He's got 12 subscribers, and he did a video back in December. It says, Jasmy, the dawn of a new era, the DCJPY Digital Yen Initiative. This is big, all right? I think this is his own words. This is not from, there's a little bit of like AI in the video, and that's fine. I need to read this. I want to give credit where credit's due. I swear I've seen this guy because obviously he's talking about Jasmy. So remember how we just mentioned, DCJPY and that, that whole connection. We mentioned some of the common ground with, Swift, carbon, not just carbon credits, but this whole thing of, going carbon green, if you will. So this groundbreaking video dives into the world of digital currency, explores the pivotal role of Jasmy in the launch of DCJPY Digital Yen Initiative. And it goes on to all these other financial groups. Goes down to this part about the spotlight, about Jasmy being a leader in this innovation. DCJPY positions itself as the backbone of this ambitious endeavor. When we point out the whole thing about, pairings is understanding, like, what is it, the stable coin, like Tether, Circle, and so on. Some people don't want to hear that those are also the backbone because they create the highest amount of volume. That's the point. Okay? So this initiative, like it says, underscores the significance of the DCJPY initiative and as a herald of new financial era. Jasmy isn't just part of a revolutionary change, they're leading it, potentially ushering in a world where digital currencies powered by Jasmy's innovative blockchain tech become the norm. Yeah. Why is it the norm? Let's give you a video finally. And then if anything, get Rue's thoughts and wrap this sucker up. Thank you guys for being here on the Good Friday. Here we go.
Jasmy and the dawn of a new era, the DCJPY Digital Yen Initiative. In an unprecedented move that could redefine the financial landscape, a consortium of over 70 Japanese firms, including powerhouses like Mitsubishi UFJ Financial Group, Rakuten, NTT, and academic giants like Keio and Tokyo University have announced the formation of a digital yen named DCJPY. This bold step towards a blockchain-backed currency is not just a leap into the future of money, it's a testament to the growing trust in decentralized technologies. Enter Jasmy. As a company at the forefront of blockchain innovation, specializing in security and confidentiality, Jasmy is perfectly poised to become the backbone of this revolutionary venture. The DCJPY is designed to tokenize existing bank deposits, creating a fluid and secure digital asset that can be transferred seamlessly across a blockchain network. With Jasmy's patented technology, the consortium has a golden opportunity to leverage a platform that prioritizes data sovereignty and user privacy. For Jasmy, the implications of this collaboration are immense. It's not merely a partnership, it's a clarion call to the industry that Jasmy's blockchain is ready for the big league. By providing the infrastructure for the DCJPY, Jasmy stands to become synonymous with financial security and efficiency. The potential growth trajectory for Jasmy in the wake of the DCJPY initiative cannot be overstated. As the digital yen gains traction, so too does the visibility and credibility of Jasmy's technology. This is a moment for Jasmy to shine, to demonstrate the robustness and scalability of its blockchain solutions. Moreover, the DCJPY project is a significant indicator of blockchain's potential to transform traditional banking. It's a sign that the world is ready to embrace the security, transparency, and efficiency that blockchain promises. And with Jasmy at the helm, the future looks secure and bright. In conclusion, as the DCJPY initiative takes flight, it's clear that we're on the cusp of a new financial era. With the perfect blend of technological expertise and strategic partnerships, Jasmy is not just participating in this change, it's leading it. This could be the start of something huge, a world where digital currencies are the norm, powered by Jasmy's pioneering blockchain technology.
That was nice. That was really nice. That really summed it up for me. Like,
yeah,
the potential of Jasmy just being like kind of like the home blockchain for the digital yen. Like that makes $1 Jasmy just seem like small.
It does. It totally does. I mean, and it also for me it's like when we call it the Bitcoin in Japan, I get it. You know, they're like, how is the, you know, especially people from like BSV, and I'm a BSV guy. I mean, you know, and they kind of laugh at it because it's like it's built on Ethereum. You guys got to understand. That's why we pound the whole thing of like the pairings. It's like Bitcoin is paired with every freaking thing. Tether's paired with everything, and Circle's paired. I mean, you had what was it, 3,200 pages on Tether with pairings?
Yeah.
I mean, we've been here forever. So when I see little hints of this, you know, like 17 banks in Japan, you know, that was just one example, and then that video, everything that was mentioned, you know, being like the standard for some of this stuff. Then I'm like, oh my God, maybe it really is going to be the Bitcoin in Japan. But if anything, not really Bitcoin, because it's a lot faster than that and has a lot more use case. I look at BTC as being like just, you know, the most expensive meme coin, but I get it. It does have value, but
I know it's hard when people say Bitcoin of Japan. When you look at Jasmy's tokenomics, like how can it be the Bitcoin of Japan? But when you look at it as a national project of Japan, and then, oh, okay. Now it's for me, like, okay, now I can understand it's the Bitcoin of Japan because it's a national project. It's going to be used everywhere for Japan. Okay, it's the Bitcoin of Japan. And another thing to kind of compare this to is I don't know if you guys are up on Justin Sun and everything and the things that are going on with Tron, but Tron's basically, it has a pairing for the digital yuan. Okay. So look at Tron's market cap and where Tron is, right? It's hard to see it because it has like a ton of coins, but you know, Tron's like one of the leading DeFi coins around, right? And it's, you know, top 10, top 15 in market cap.
I'll check on that one. Yeah, I know it's still up there. I mean, I have BTT, I have Wink Coin. I mean, I'm still kind of hodling those, right? Anyway, yeah, ranked 16th.
So then imagine now putting Jasmy there, having it being the lead blockchain for like the digital yen. Like that's like way beyond $1, Jasmy. You know, not financial advice or anything, but
yeah.
Makes me want to go buy some more.